Hello and welcome back to the MMA Split podcast. Here to discuss plenty that has happened in the last week, although we are a little late to the show. UFC 287 recap, Adesanya knocking out Alex Pereira. We're going to be talking about that, all of the fights, the fallout from the fights, what matches we'd like to see next for a lot of the key guys. A little bit of news to touch on as well. We've got the UFC merging with the WWE. Endeavor has bought Worldwide Wrestling Entertainment. They're merging it into the UFC into one stock company brand that is now worth $24 billion. And some good fights have been organised coming up on the horizon.
And some other fights.
Which we'll be talking about. With all of that to get into, please like the video, subscribe, share, comment, all of that good stuff. I'm your host, Matt, joined by host and producer Josh.
Hello. A little sleepy, a little hungover.
Apologies for us being a little late as well. I have had my laptop officially go, not the laptop go kaput, but my charger go kaput. Turns out my laptop doesn't last very long without the charger, so that is... limited us to a certain extent, and then we had some logistic issues as well in the week. But I'm kind of glad that we're doing this on a Thursday, a few days removed, because I feel like a lot of the questions we would have been posing or asking ourselves or discussing have sort of come to a kind of conclusion.
Yeah.
Or there's more clarity.
I'd say the biggest one for me, Pereira moving up to 205, that's official.
Well,
feels like the good move. Feels like that was an inevitable move.
We will get to that, but let's talk about the card in question itself. Miami, first time we'd had a UFC card there in 20 years. Sold out, biggest ever gate. Beat the gate for Madison Square Garden. I don't know why they keep championing that, because all that means is that you're charging even more expensive ticket prices for the same goddamn fucking seats.
Yeah.
But that's neither here nor there. What did you think of the card overall?
Pretty good card. The weird thing about doing it on the Thursday is I haven't seen these fights since Sunday. It's pretty bad. It's just been a mad week as well. I haven't had the chance to go back and catch up on too much. So I remember enjoying it a lot of the time. There was definitely some questionable decisions. There was some great fucking knockouts. Good card. 8 out of 10. What are you saying?
I enjoyed it a lot. I thought the main card was pretty outstanding. Only one fight really let me down in terms of entertainment value, and it still ended up having some sentimental value. Thing that really fucks this for me, dude, is my picks were atrocious. I got destroyed. I got 4 fights correct out of 13. 12 or 13? I think it was 12 on the night, because
12, you lost the Chase Sherman
versus Carl Williams.
Yeah.
But a lot of the fights that I got wrong, I was weirdly happy about being wrong on them. And I think that's as good a segue as we're ever going to get into this main event.
Wait. I want to go back though. What are the questions that you feel have kind of been answered since Thursday? I'd like to get into that.
Well, mainly what the next fights are going to be for Pereira and Israel Adesanya. I feel like if we'd recorded on a Monday, we'd be talking a lot about immediate rematch, trilogies, all the rest, should he move up. We now know that Pereira is moving up. I will get to that because chronologically, the reason he's moving up is that despite having fought Izzy 3 times, despite having beaten him 3 times, questionable on the first one, but don't leave it in the hands of the judges, especially in kickboxing, knocked him out twice. Adesanya put his name in the winner's column at last against this man. And the crazy thing about this fight is Adesanya, who probably got the better of him for the majority of their first 3 fights. For me, this was the fight where it was really, I thought, going Pereira's way. Certainly in that second round, and certainly in the early parts of the fight. And then out of nowhere, Izzy lands one of the sweetest counter-strike knockouts I've ever seen. I mean, I was watching this with Sylvester Sunday morning without knowing the results. And the thing I just kept saying over and over again is he iced him. I mean, he iced him. He knocked him out worse than Pereira ever knocked him out. And I know that's not the best comeback against somebody, because that means that they've knocked you out. But I mean,
making his kids cry is pretty fucking savage too.
We'll get to that. I saw this on Jesse on Fire. Shout out Jesse on Fire's YouTube channel. He was watching live, and he was cage side, and he recorded, just kept an eye on Pereira, because he's like, this is the thing when you watch the fights live, like when you get a bad knockout like that, they really don't want to dwell too much on how bad the knockout is. They want you to be much more focused on the champion and all the rest. He's like, Pereira was out for a while, and when he woke up, he didn't know what fucking day it was. He didn't know what fucking year it was. They tried to stand him up multiple times. He couldn't do it. Even when they put him on the stool, he was just unable to keep it. I mean, he was as badly knocked out as a human being can be. When Israel Adesanya comes up to him after he's standing up and kind of shakes all the coach's hands and gives him the fist bump, I don't think he knew what the fuck was going on. I think he was still just like, why am I touching gloves? Where am I? It was bad, dude. And
yeah, I mean, it cuts a lot of weight as well, though. So it just kind of like leads into like why it's such an easy decision, I guess, for him to move up to 205. But that's not the bit that made his kids cry.
No, well, first of all, Izzy has the coolest celebration I've ever seen, where he throws Alex Pereira's walkout drawing of the arrow and firing, standing over him, firing 3 arrows, one for every single defeat he suffered. That was fucking cool. Even afterwards, breaking the imaginary bow. Love that, because that also means that going into a fight where you're fighting a guy who's already beaten you 3 times, you still practice the celebration. You still believed in yourself enough to practice the celebration. But then he goes up to Alex Pereira's currently 14-year-old kid, something.
Wait, he doesn't go up to the kid, but the kid, when Pereira knocked him out in kickboxing in the second fight,
Yeah.
his kid in the cage, while Izzy is still on the ground recovering, does like the feint taunt. Goes over like a sack of potatoes. So then Izzy did the exact same thing, and then the camera crew were sharp enough to pan round to Pereira's family, where the kid in question was bawling his fucking eyes out. Felt bad for the kid. I mean, like, the kid shouldn't have done what he did, but he's a fucking kid.
Well, this is the thing. If the kid was 12 years old 7 years ago and did that, and then 7 years later, at the age of 19, Izzy throws it back in his face, I'd kind of say fair enough. But, like, for all the people saying, like, oh, the kid should have learned, that's what he did to Izzy, fuck around, find out. It's like, dude, a 33-year-old man should not be having a grudge against a 5-year-old.
Yeah.
Like, you should not... A 5-year-old is not the one that you should be keeping the fucking receipts against.
Well, even Izzy was like, yeah, I'm petty. I'm a very petty person.
He is petty. That's just petty to
He looked like he enjoyed it. It wasn't as bad as, say, MVP doing
rolling the
Pokeball
Pokemon ball. That was bad.
Santos. But the only reason that one was so bad
It's because he's
because he didn't know how bad he'd fucked his head up. He didn't know there was going to be a GoFundMe for his fucking medical costs. Like,
yeah.
That's why that one was bad.
This is the problem with over celebrations over like a full like unconscious flat on the ground human is you just don't know how bad. A little bit like when Michael Chandler did the 3 backflips after Tony Ferguson, and then people kind of had to tap him on the shoulder and be like, "There's a possibility Tony's not okay. Like, we might just want to make sure that he stands up again before we..."
Yeah. Look,
Against,
love
I'd say this,
sportsmanship. I love when people have a bit more of a they adopt that magnanimous kind of like humble in victory kind of thing. But when you're all fired up and the adrenaline's going and shit, like, you're gonna say and do some stupid shit. So I can forgive stuff here and there. It's like,
I think if it was just all focused on Alex Pereira, there wouldn't be an issue. It's like, that's your nemesis. If you want to assign some of the shit that his family said and kind of pour that into your like release towards him, that's understandable. Like the 3 arrow thing at the celebration at the end, that's cool as fuck. That's Izzy, when Izzy is in that moment where he knows he's just pulled something off and he's able to just add that extra sort of element of iconic to it. But this is kind of the thing with Izzy though, man, is like, and this is why I think fans started turning away from him, and you sort of felt that even in the run up to this fight, is he's like equally cool and cringy, and he can be extreme in both almost at the same time. So, for example, in the same moment where he's pulled off, like, in my opinion, the knockout of his career, the best moment of his career, the best finish of his career. No question about it. Fucking perfect. Awesome celebration. And then you just have to do the diving in front of the kid. And then you just have to say a couple of things in the post-fight speech. It's a bit like, okay. But this, at the end of the day, only ever middleweight to lose his belt and reclaim it. I think his 8th title fight win at middleweight. The guy is, I mean, he's a Hall of Famer. He's absolutely cemented his legacy.
No one else ever got it back.
No one else ever got it back.
Franklin,
no. Anderson Silva, no.
Who was before Franklin?
Who was before Franklin?
Too hungover.
Why does Evan Tanner keep popping into my mind? I know the answer is not Evan Tanner.
It's just the way the spank bank jumps to the front, and I know I'm knocking one out to Tanner tonight.
The point is...
What?
The point is, he's done something nobody else has been able to do in his weight class, man. He's back on top. In reality, he's once again heavily favoured in almost every single matchup that he could have at middleweight.
Well, this was his bad style matchup. This is the one he had to get rid of. And obviously, I'm not saying Alex gets knocked out that easily because he's cutting a lot of weight. But he's going to be able to take shots better at 205. Better for his career. He's still got the power, the size, the reach. I'd like to think he's probably going to be a bit more of a busier, active kickboxer at 205. So
he's still going to dwarf. He's still going to dwarf 90% of the fucking lightweights.
Yeah, you watch him like warming up Glover Teixeira, and you're like, this dude looks almost like a fucking heavyweight. Like,
it's insane. I'll say I don't want to blame the weight cut too much because like that's you get the benefit from that.
Yeah, it's what it is. It's a choice he made.
You get the risk.
But that's why it was such a bad style matchup for Izzy, because it was just such like a ridiculous amount of power to have to deal with on your terms.
And I want to just put this out. I think Izzy deserves a huge amount. Adesanya, I'll just make it clear, deserves a huge amount of credit. Like, to fight a guy that's beaten you 3 times and knocked you out twice, just to be willing to put it on the line and step back in and deal with that fucking monster. And then the way that he fought, so much more aggressive, made an adjustment to try and really... I felt like he was going for the body a lot more with Alex Pereira. I think he felt like going for the legs didn't work out. He clearly wanted to try and get him moving backwards and try and take some of the air out of the tyres. I thought that was a really good adjustment. But then I thought Alex Pereira had made a great adjustment, really targeting the legs, beating Izzy's legs up. But Izzy had made a different adjustment. And he says he was playing possum. I think that's both true and untrue, and this is what I mean. A few times in that second round, he'd got it when he was being pressed up against the cage. He'd put the high guard up and had shown he was looking to take some shots on the guard and then try and trade back. So he'd clearly identified that when Pereira's being super aggressive, he can kind of start swinging and keeping his hands low. I do think his leg was getting badly beaten up. I think that was being, like, Pereira was having a lot of success with that. But I don't think Izzy'd been hurt anywhere else. No, like in that final exchange, I think he'd felt the leg buckle, and that made him go like, okay, we'll go back into this shelling up and trying to lure him in. So I think there was an element of possuming there, but there's no doubt that Izzy was under a huge amount of pressure in that second round. The leg was getting chewed up.
If we say playing possum, is in like I'm not gonna, I'm gonna take a bit more of a defensive strategy for like the next flurry. Yes. But like I can think of one example, I don't even remember the dude's fucking name, where he pretended to be hurt, and then as soon as the other guy charged in, he cracked him. I think, is it Pete Mitchell?
I think it is.
And I think even he said, like, no, I actually was hurt, but I managed to clear my like head enough when he actually came up to me. The way he lost the first fight, he had the high guard, it was just that he was tired, like Goddard stopped it because it was just the right time to stop it. Actually, it'd be an awful strategy to employ in a real fight. And if it was a strategy we're going to use... Never fucking tell anyone. Why would you tip your hand like that? So much of like fight strategy is not giving the whole arsenal away in the first round unless you think you're getting an early knockout.
I agree. I will say that in their first MMA fight, Izzy had gone for a different... So in the first MMA fight, when he was pressed against the cage, what he was doing is reaching both hands out and trying to occupy the hands of Alex Pereira. And that works for about 2 rounds really effectively. What started happening after that is Pereira was finding shots through the guard because obviously your hands are outstretched, you're not offering any defense. And Izzy was going for a lot of clinches. Whenever that was happening, Alex was nailing him to the body with uppercuts and knees. So, and one thing that Izzy said in that first fight is that he felt like his cardio wasn't as good as it needed to be. As the fight got later on, he couldn't really put the pressure on. I feel a lot of that was the damage he was taking to the body. He was in the finishing sequence, hands out like this, exposed. So it was clearly something like, I don't think his initial goal was, I'm going to lure him and put my back against the cage like I'm Anderson Silva and look for a perfect counterhook. I think Izzy's initial strategy was, I need to get this guy going backwards as much as possible. He got met by Pereira's adjustment, which is I'm going to take out your legs primarily first and get you to that same level of mobility that you were in the 5th round of the last fight, where I could then catch you. But Izzy was able to make that other secondary adjustment, and that's what ended up winning in the fight. And Alex Pereira, man, he went to the well, he swung the left hook once, and rather than go again with the right hand, he just tried to load up the same shot for a second time. You do that in boxing, man, high-level boxing, you're going to get caught. It gave Izzy the read and the space to get that left hand in, the right, and then the second right hand, man, he pushed himself off the cage. I mean, he put his entire soul into that shot.
Yeah.
Reclaims the belt.
I think it says a lot about Pereira's like mindset as well. So quickly jumping up to 205. You know, you've technically got like 3 wins over the guy. Like, why wouldn't you? But it's like, I don't know. Maybe there was a bad training camp. Maybe he took some injuries in camp. But I feel like maybe he just can't cut that weight and move like he wants to move. I just don't think it's there. When you're getting sloppy in the early rounds of the fight with your technique, with your game plan, it says to me that like you're not even pacing at this point. You're getting fucking like very tired.
You don't think some of it was mental? Just, I know that when I go forward, I can bully this guy. He saw the leg buckling, thought, I've got him in the same state, in the same kind of situation as the 5th round last time. I can just get this guy out of here.
It's possible, but I would think the amount of round time these two guys have had together, confidence isn't as much of an issue as it is just kind of momentum. And it's obviously there's always going to be shit playing on your mind, right? It's a championship fight. It is what it fucking is. But I think there's a lot of factors that go into it. It's going to be really interesting to see what you can do at 205. I think you can do a lot at 205. Who do you want to see Izzy fight next then?
Well, I'm really glad that he's moving up. I wasn't a fan of an immediate rematch, even though I really want to see them go for a trilogy fight at some point. But here's the issue. Immediate rematch, no. Because, one, he might need to be out for a year after that knockout. We don't know how soon his return's going to be. Izzy likes to fight regularly. Problem number 2. Sometimes you just need to get some new guy in there. You know what I mean? What are we going to do? Just keep having them go back and forth? And then what? What if Pereira wins the 3rd fight and then decides he's moving up to 205? And then Izzy's just fighting another person. And here's the issue. If Pereira stays at middleweight and Israel Adesanya fights somebody else, eventually Pereira at that point will probably need to fight at least one fight to get a title shot again. And then you're looking at the division and you're thinking, well, already beat his best matchup, Strickland. I would probably back him against Paulo Costa. In fact, I'd certainly back him against Paulo Costa. But
I think Paulo Costa could get him down, though.
Maybe. But this is the factor. I think Whittaker is a good style matchup for Pereira. Same with Vettori. I even think Cannonier would cause some issues.
Yep.
He's very happy to implement a wrestling game plan. He's done a lot of experience. You know, Vittori's a problem. Hamzat Chimaev, if he comes up and can be as dominant at middleweight. You know, you could be in a situation where he loses the next 2 fights and you never and then by the time he moves to light heavyweight, the momentum's gone. Right now at 205, who's at the top of the pile? It's Jan. It's Jamal Hill. It's Yuri Prochaska when he comes back. You know, Ryan Span's in the top 10 for fuck's sake. Krylov's in the top 10. Like
Ankalaev.
Well, Ankalaev can grapple.
Yeah.
He'd be the guy that I'd look at,
and he can make a fight a little uglier and a little duller when it needs to be.
Very true.
You're not gonna get the same tired moments up against the cage without him clinching hard and really creating problems for you.
No. But I'd also say the issue with Ankalaev is that he's a very patient counter striker. I don't see him out kickboxing Pereira, and judging on how nervous and kind of patient he can be, certainly we're dealing with heavy hitters, I could see Pereira really freezing him. Just feinting a few knees up. So there's way better matchups for Pereira at 205. And then you can still get the trilogy, because guess what? What if Pereira wins the belt? Then Izzy gets a couple more wins. You say we do the third one at light heavyweight?
Be interesting. I think it'd be a mistake, but it'd be interesting. But who would you like to see Izzy fight next, though? Because it's really just
Rob Whittaker had a bad
as far as the guy as far as the eye can see.
Rob Whittaker went from I'm guaranteed the next title shot to fuck. He was on the UFC watch along as well, so everyone got to see his exact reaction, which he's now followed up with on Submission Radio, and his reaction is actually really interesting.
I haven't seen this.
It's cool. So he said, at the moment I look disappointed, but he's like, I just look like that after every fight. I had the same facial expression when I did the watch along for the first fight. My actual reaction is I'm delighted for Izzy, and what I realised watching the fight is I really want to fucking take the belt off this guy. It's like, I know I probably could have done it more easily off Pereira, and I'd be guaranteed the next shot. But the competitor in me wants it to be Izzy. Like, this guy. I want to do whatever it takes to fight this guy again for the belt and take it off him. And it wouldn't feel the same if I took the belt off somebody, if I got there again by beating a different person.
Do you think they make that fight, though?
No. I think Rob needs at least one more.
Do you think they make that fight in a landscape where we've got the Pena-Nunes trilogy happening and they seem to just be throwing shits up against the wall?
Okay, so Rob Whittaker and Marvin Vettori, and in fact everyone who's already lost to Izzy, are going to make a really strong argument now, saying, so we've just been given some very compelling evidence that sometimes it takes 2 or 3 attempts before you successfully defeat your enemy.
Yeah.
That's the argument I'd make. I want to see him fight Dricus, man. Dricus has been saying some stuff. He's been getting responses. There's a storyline. You can call it the Safa versus the... I can't make that joke. But you knew where I was going with that one.
Yeah, because it rhymes.
Yes, exactly.
It was obvious.
It was exactly. I kind of like Dricus as well. And
you need to remember as well, I'm very, very hungover. You can have one edit today. You can have one edit. I don't think it needed to be that.
That was the great thing about my joke. I didn't need to say it. I just needed to.
But it made me think about it. You have one edit today. That's all you get. All right. If you think I'm doing more than one,
I hate when you say that because you make it sound like I spend most of the podcast saying some horrific shit that you then have to go and edit.
Yeah, even when we have like live feeds and it's very much a live production that we do. It's very minimal editing, which is a problem because sometimes we discuss things that need to be taken out. And I forget to do it because we just don't fucking... It's not really how we do business.
Sorry, Sanko.
Yeah. I'm really, really tired. I'm running on about 2 hours sleep. I had a little too much fun last night with some colleagues.
None of our comments should be mistaken for us not thinking that you are in any way, shape or form not remarkably qualified for your job, Laura. But you're also fit as fuck. Who do you want to see Pereira and Izzy fight? I didn't ask you.
I
don't want Hamzat on principle. That's my one where I'm like, if you say Hamzat, you can go fuck yourself.
Well, I mean, like, I don't even know what fucking weight class he really thinks he's in. For Pereira, I think it's got to be top 5. Izzy, I kind of actually would like to see the Whittaker rematch now because... frankly, you've got some decent people coming up. I know, like, Imavov lost. Andre Muniz, didn't he drop his most recent one as well? Yeah. Brendan Allen can be a bit hit and miss. But you've got these guys that are coming up. Obviously, Kelvin Gastelum just beat Curtis this weekend. We'll get to that in a bit.
We'll talk about
that. There are guys that I would like to see some new blood come in as well. So, Dricus du Plessis, definitely want to see him fighting...
He is eliminator. He is the African fighter in the UFC.
God, yeah, the African fighter. It's like that fucking Pete versus Life, where he's dating a white African. but he uses that to basically curry favor with another woman, being like, "Yeah, I'm helping an African get a green card," and then at the end she finds out it's a white chick, and she's like, "Oh, you fucking piece of shit." But that was a very underrated show, Pete versus Life.
Never saw it.
Had Timothy Spall's kid, Rafe Spalls.
Oh,
He's a
okay.
fucking great actor.
He's a
Not
good
really a vehicle for acting in. It was a comedy, but you know, like that guy fucking nails it and everything. I want to see Pereira fight someone top 5. I want to see Izzy Whittaker, and after that, I just need to see an active 185 because whoever wins, like, dominant champs make divisions stale, but then what you start to see is people reaching down. So number 6 gets a crack, number 7 gets a crack, number 8 gets a crack. When you have the same guys fighting, beating each other, divisions get stale in a very different way. That you just don't get the natural churn of people creeping up the rankings because everyone's too scared to fight below them because they don't want to give up their number. They don't want to give up their opportunity to move forward. So I don't mind having the same old faces that we've had in there for a long fucking time. Like a long fucking time. As long as they're staying busy. I can live with that.
Can I be honest, like, the only guy that hasn't shown a willingness to fight down in that division is Paulo Costa. He's the only one that, out of that top 5, 6, that I'd say is a real bitch about it. Like, Rob will fight everyone.
Yeah, you also
He's
don't have
fought
Paulo
everyone.
Costa will actually make weight or do the fight or just...
Hey, he's got a million very good reasons to fight now, to want to make sure he's on weight and being a happy good boy, which might be how they get him to fight Hamzat. One name that we didn't talk about, Jan Blachowicz has said, "I'll go down to middleweight." You're in your wanting to avenge rematches, avenge your losses. Okay, this one for your belt. The only problem is he then followed up on Errol Hawani saying he's never made 185 pounds before. He's never fought at 185 pounds before. He just believes he can do it. I'd love that fight though. That might be my favourite fight for Izzy.
A lot of fighters, especially championship level fighters, will do test cuts. You know, Dan Hooker did test cuts. Even GSP for 185 did a test weigh and test cut.
Okay, that's a good point.
You know, like I can't imagine Jan Blachowicz is gonna give it a go for the first time fucking the day before the fight. I'm pretty sure he's gonna do a test cut.
I get what you're saying.
6 months before camp, then do camp and do a cut. Like,
yeah.
But I also don't think he can make 185.
That would be a fun fight though, I gotta be honest. Right, well that's pretty much us exhausted the amount of time that we can spend on the main event. Let's talk about a co-main event. We expected a barn burner. In the end, I thought this fight looked very similar to the Wonder Boy Gilbert Burns fight. It looked very similar to the Jorge Masvidal Damian Maia fight. I didn't think Jorge looked that bad in the first round.
No.
I thought he looked fast, technical, but as soon as Gilbert Burns got a takedown, it threw everything off.
Burns looks to me like a guy that isn't wasting any more of his chin, isn't wasting any mistakes on anyone that he doesn't absolutely fucking have to. If he has to go again against Khamzat Chimaev, then you're going to see an absolute fucking beast. But until he absolutely has to throw the kitchen sink at someone, he's just going to systematically go back to that title shot. That's what I see in this match right now.
I wasn't very impressed with Gilbert Burns, I've got to be honest.
Impressive, no, but it's just going to be that thing where you keep beating everyone ranked around and above you. They can't say no at a certain point.
So yeah, I think... How did I feel? I thought he was extreme. He looked very frozen on the feet first round. It just looked like he couldn't get a sense of Masvidal's feints. He couldn't get reads. He looked really worried about falling into a trap. He eased up a lot. Once he got the first takedown at the end of the first round, I think he relaxed.
Well, that's what he had to get the timing on. He wasn't trying to land on him. He was just trying to get the entries without getting clipped.
I think he's just seemed calmer after that. I think it's like, okay, I've seen the path to victory. The takedown resistance wasn't all there. I'd say for Jorge, I don't think this is the most... I know he's saying he's 38 and he's getting on with it and he doesn't feel the same, and I think there's truth to that. I don't know how physically and mentally ready he was for this. Like, the moment you're bringing the kids out at the weigh-ins, it felt like he knew this was his last fight. There's a couple of bits on the embedded where it looks like he was a little pissed in the evenings when they were recording with him. He seemed to get more tired in that second round. Like, I mean, on 6 days' notice, he didn't get that tired against Usman.
No,
In a 5-round fight.
Ridiculous heat and humidity.
Yeah, so I just think he knew, and I think he thought, I'm still technical. I can maybe catch him. I've got enough experience. Maybe I can get that title fight, last fight, whatever. But Masvidal retires, man. And for a guy with a 35-17 record, he retires a lot more successful and a lot more well-known than probably most people would have thought if you just looked at the bare facts afterwards.
It's like a Robbie Lawler record without the belt. In fact, at one point in the broadcast, they had like a bunch of ex-champs that they were like, there's that guy. And Robbie Lawler's like just behind him. And no one said his fucking name. I'm like, that was kind of me.
Well, they gave
That's a
Robbie
little bit
Lawler
mean.
his moment by inducting his fight into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
So Robbie Robbie.
It was
Lawler,
a mean shot though. I can't remember who the fucking champs they had in front of Robbie were, but you know, also Robbie's that guy. He's not going to be like, hey, I'm here too. It's Robert Glenn Lawler. He's a class act.
Well, they like to try and include everyone. I don't know if that was after or before they'd inducted him into the Hall of Fame for the second fight with Roy McDonald. So, you know what I mean? If they've just spent, or they know they're about to spend a minute with him on the camera, maybe you don't flash to him beforehand. You want to have that reveal moment. I don't know.
Or then maybe don't put him in the fucking background of the shot. Anyway, you're right. We've eaten up a lot of time on the main. Anything else you want to touch on the co-main?
Gilbert Burns isn't young. I think he's slowing down a little. It's interesting. Before that fight, I thought Gilbert Burns...
Stale division, though, again.
A little bit. You've got a couple of names coming forward. Before Saturday, I would have thought Gilbert Burns was going to be the worst possible matchup for Leon. I think Leon could comfortably beat Gilbert Burns. I just think I think there's things that Masvidal showed, particularly in the first round, that I think Leon would be able to take advantage of more.
Well, Leon sprawls a lot.
I think
he's better.
And also I think Leon would be able to be. I think Leon would be offensive with the wrestling, and I think Gilbert Burns would struggle. Like, Leon's a strong dude, man. That's one thing I realized after the second Usman fight. Take away altitude, that guy. If that guy can physically hold off Usman, you know, that's.
Yeah.
I that's all I say. But I like Gilbert Burns. He's a nice dude, and I think he's smart to call for the backup slot.
Yeah.
He knows he didn't do enough to pip out Colby. But get yourself as the guaranteed next in line. Show up. Maybe somebody gets injured. Make the weight. And then, like you say, not a lot else in the division is really demanding me to be the next title shot afterwards. Particularly as Bilal Muhammad very sensibly has given 2 middle fingers and said absolutely not to the Shavkat Rakhmonov fight. And it's now looking like he's going to get the Usman fight. Which is a way better fight.
Yeah.
Way
Wait,
more high
Rakhmonov's getting Usman.
No. Bilal's getting Usman.
Okay. Because if he beats Usman, like, they can't keep fucking him. Like,
Yeah. And it's a good time to fight Usman. You get more higher profile name. Nobody wants Shavkat right now, man. I would really even that's the guy I look at and think, be ready, Leon.
Yeah.
Okay, he did what he did to Jeff Neal. If he goes out there and beats fucking the loser of, I mean, I think Shavkat probably gets the loser of Colby versus Leon as a title eliminator for him if he wins it. If
Possibly, yeah.
Leon beats Colby, and then Colby just gets smoked by Rakhmonov, I'd be nervous for Leon. But let's move on. Goodbye, Masvidal.
Yeah.
Thanks for 2019. It was a wonderful year.
So look, we're probably looking about 10 fights, 10 minutes, but I would like to talk about Rob Font for a bit.
Oh, we can definitely. This was another one I was wrong about. I should have seen it coming, man. What does Adrian Yanez always struggle with in his fights?
Didn't you almost pick Font on this one?
He did, man. And it was the jab. It was like, Rob Font is so good with that jab. Yanez is a good boxer, but he struggled against other good boxers that really utilise the jab. Oh, don't worry, do you think? I'll keep talking. And obviously at that point, we'd already had kind of 2 or 3 prospects get pretty badly beaten. So I wasn't feeling hopeful on the old prospects. And Yanez, I thought he made some amateur errors, man. I thought he was trying to fight fire with fire too much. if you look at the blueprint of how to beat Rob Font set by Chiso Vera and Jose Aldo, they would allow Rob Font to be aggressive, get off combinations, and would focus on just being very defensively responsible, not getting caught with anything big, and waiting for that perfect moment where they can land the meaningful counter that does damage. And Yanez was just too trying to fight fire with fire, trying to meet force with force, trying to outbox him straight from the off without really setting up the shots, those big shots that can kind of change the momentum of a fight. And I thought it showed a lack of patience. I thought it showed a lack of composure. And he paid for it, man, unfortunately. And that's the thing with bantamweight, dude, is everyone's a killer. And we should have looked at it. We should have looked at the quality of opposition to go from Tony Kelly on an off night. Listen, I'm not saying Tony Kelly's a good fighter. He's not a great fighter. But he also
He's
was
a smart
not,
fighter, though. He's not a smart person. He's a smart fighter.
He did not. Right. Adrian Yanez did not beat the best Tony Kelly that he could have beaten. I thought the skills were there, but and particularly when you've got a blue, that's what always amazes me. It's like you have a blueprint. You know you've got heavy hands. You know you can land fast counters. You've seen this guy fight two talented boxers who kept everything on the guard, didn't panic, let him come forward, and then hit him and made a difference.
Yeah.
And you didn't show that patience. You didn't let him burst out, get some of those combinations going, kind of start getting a little bit too over-aggressive. And Rob Font, man, really just made him look like a young contender.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like what you're saying with Rob Font is you have to wait for him to take a risk with his footwork because he can obviously just stay on point range, but he understands when to do damage and to like take momentum. So there will be the moments that he steps in. Yanez never went like, yeah, I'll wait for you to make a mistake. Yanez was like, hey, I'm going to like trying to take the onus here. It's like I said, the blueprint's been set. You want to be fun, you have to be very fucking good, but you have to be a little patient too.
It's a setback. I think he will bounce back. He's a really talented dude. It's his first loss. He's had 5 awesome wins, 5 performance bonuses. The only problem is there's no easy fights to bounce back to. Like, everyone's a killer in that division, and confidence can play a huge factor. But for Rob Font, man, he needed that win. He gets that win. He's straight back in the big fight picture. There's loads of fun fights, man. All of a sudden, you're looking at Cheeto potentially. You're looking at Yan, maybe the loser of Corey versus Marab. I mean, tons of fun fights. Maybe Sean O'Malley gets sick of waiting around.
I doubt it, but maybe.
But no, I was wrong on it, but I was happy for Rob Font. Fought well, great finish. Other thing I'll say about Yanez is there was like a couple of shots that rocked him before the one that really rocked him, and he didn't start taking any back steps until it's too late. I thought that was a little foolish as well. Like, sometimes you just need to recognize that, oh, that one stung me a little bit. Let's retreat. Let's get some distance. Let's make sure I don't get caught with anything stupid. We'll be talking about experience in a second. Kevin Holland, Ponzinibbio. Controversial take. I thought Kevin Holland, I don't want to say fortunate, but I kind of thought, particularly first 2 rounds, I thought Pons was winning them until he got caught with some kind of weird, awkward shot that, Holland's a super athlete. It hurt him, completely turned the tide. I thought generally Ponzinibbio was fighting a far more technical fight. It's just that Kevin Holland is so long and so freakishly strong and athletic and can get so much momentum and fulcrum on his punches.
Yeah.
But
it's like Pons went, Morono, you've shown me the way. But he just shouldn't have watched the end of that bit where he got knocked out and been like, there's better ways to fight.
There's no situation where you expect you get knocked down by a back fist, though. And that's the thing, the shots were so unorthodox that Kevin Holland was catching him with clean that you almost can't really blame him. For Kevin Holland, I just look at it and think, yeah, you beat these guys. Like, you do have these natural gifts. You're so long, you're so tall. There's obvious physical talent there. But you didn't fight the fight in a way that makes me think that you can go in against another high-level striker and outstrike them. And I haven't seen enough to make me think that you're suddenly going to have this magical takedown defense against more of the grappling-heavy guys. So I really like Kevin Holland as a fighter, but at the same time, I really don't I think there's a very clear ceiling.
Yeah.
But fun. Good finish. Shame for Ponzinibbio because I like Pons and he's had a hard life.
Yeah. I gotta imagine he's probably getting cut. He's just on too much money. He's too old.
It was still a high profile fight. You thought, well, I don't think they cut him.
Lost 2 of the last 6. We'll see.
Yeah, but he'll lose a couple and then he'll get a great moment. I don't think you get rid of a guy like Pons. I think he's still a good proving fight for a lot of people.
You don't get rid of the guy from the sport, but the UFC will be like, we don't want to fucking pay you anymore.
I understand what you're saying.
All right.
Let's talk hype trains derailed.
Yeah, so Raul Rosas Jr.
This was the ultimate. I mean, this kid was getting hyped up beyond belief. Second fight in the UFC, second opener of a pay-per-view card. Christian Rodriguez was a tough fight, and I think maybe we put a bit too much faith in the matchmakers in the sense of we kind of thought they clearly think he's ready for it.
Yeah.
He was not ready for Christian Rodriguez, man.
Well, he looked great in the first round.
Well, yeah, everyone's great in the first round when you're sprinting.
Yeah. But to be honest, there were moments where I did think that maybe he was going to actually be able to sink in that rear naked choke, and then that would be that.
I was watching... Listen, he got in good positions. I thought Christian Rodriguez was staying very calm. I thought he defended very well. About a minute and a half into the first round, I was thinking, if he doesn't get him out in this first round, it's not going to be pretty. And I shouldn't be thinking that 90 seconds into a fight.
Probably not.
Everything with Rosas is a sprint. I mean, fucking sprinted out at the start of the first round. Dived.
The kid's 18.
Yeah, but this is why we shouldn't prop 18-year-olds this quickly, man, because you set people up for failure. Like, there's an argument to say he shouldn't have been in the UFC this young, and he should have just been getting experience on the regional scene. But if you are going to sign him, like, look at how they're handling Chase Hooper. And I know that Chase Hooper does not have the physicality that this kid has for the weight division that he's fighting, for the weight class that he's fighting in. But, like, Christian Rodriguez is 8-1 as, like, a man in his mid to late 20s, and just felt like somebody that had so much more time on the mat, so much more time competing.
I'd say he's kind of the same level as the dude that Chase Hooper just dispatched and got cut from the UFC. But 18, young and dumb. You learn to pace yourself a little bit. I think could still be fun. Christian Rodriguez, we thought it'd be an interesting fight, but we got too excited about Rosas.
Missed weight. Did miss weight. Got to be mentioned. Had that extra pound advantage. Not saying that that's the reason that he survived the first round, but it's still a factor.
Yeah.
Apparently, Rosas Jr. was walking around fight week at about 140 pounds. So, arguments could be made that he needs to fill out a little bit. Maybe get a bit more strength.
I mean, he's got so much frame. He's so young. Like, inevitably, he's going up like featherweight, even lightweight, maybe. But this is like kind of way it's good sometimes to have young fighters exposed to the highest levels early, because sometimes it doesn't matter what age they are, they just get pushed too quick anyway. But like O'Malley's doing well, Darren Till was doing well until Tyron Woodley, then it all fucking went to shit. Thomas Almeida did the whole fucking regional scene, came in with a shit hot record and then just melted. Like, there's no winning formula, but if you can stand up to the pressure, you will never be able to develop at the same rate as when you're going up against the best all the time, paying for the best coaches, training with the best partners. Really,
I think any fighter that has this goal of, I'm going to be the youngest UFC champion, it doesn't seem to work out very well for them.
Nope.
And one of the things, I know John Jones was like 19 or 20 or something like that when he came into the UFC. Like, he was super, super young.
Yeah, like 20, 21. So he was 23 when he was champion. Yeah. And it was like a 2-year.
It didn't take him long to get there. But one of the things that stood out about John Jones wasn't just that, like, this is a supremely talented, physically talented, athletic human being. But this was a 20-year-old that fights like a 29-year-old. Like, he didn't fight like a young man. And all of these guys come in, they all, say, I'm going to be the youngest champion. They all have that young, I'm aggressive, I'm just wiping everybody out in a minute and a half. I think the problem for Raul Rosas Jr. is like this could either be the humbling experience that really helps him get to the next step, or it can completely dismantle his confidence.
Yeah, but even if it does kind of fuck with him a little bit, it's just going to be a good challenge. If he wants to continue in the sport, it's a good challenge to go back. Max Roskop went back through to Cage Warriors after retiring mid-fight with the UFC. Like refusing to come out for the third round or the third round, I think.
Yeah. Against Thub Hubbard, who's now in the new season of The Ultimate Fighter.
Interesting.
Yeah, a few things coming full circle. This is completely off topic, but do you want to hear something I heard the other day that blew my mind? You know Rob Wilkinson, Israel Adesanya's first fight in the UFC?
Yeah.
You know Rob Wilkinson has won every fight he's had since that Adesanya loss?
Yeah.
On his way to becoming the light heavyweight PFL champion.
He's and one hell of a mustache.
Yeah.
Alright.
Let's talk prelims. Gastelum versus Curtis was the best fight on the card.
That's shame. So I'm going to push us to go a little quicker on these ones, unfortunately.
I also got this fight wrong. I just have one thing to say. Delighted to see Gastelum fight so well. Great return for him. I thought Chris Curtis was really unlucky because aside from a headbutt that drops him, he probably wins that second round and he stormed away with that third round.
Yeah, he did good. We know Gastelum has great hands. He's just a bit undersized for the division. And I think we both assumed that Curtis was going to be able to catch him at some point. It just didn't happen.
I feel like the fight went the way that we thought it did.
Yeah.
If you take away that one headbutt, Curtis doesn't go onto the ground.
And had a Curtis knockout that we were kind of...
I wasn't on with the knockout with you.
You're thinking...
Because I think Gastelum's impossible to finish. I just thought Chris Curtis was going to start taking over the second half of the fight, which he did. And take away the knockdown and the shots on the ground, he probably gets that second round. I mean, he's bitter about it. I can understand it. I think Gastelum needed that win more.
Yep. Pinheiro against Michelle Waterson.
Michelle won that fight.
Yep, that was a really, really bad
really terrible decision. And she's had a few terrible decisions like that, Michelle Waterson. The only thing I'd say about her is she's never winning a title and the UFC love her and just gave her a new 8-fight contract. I don't think her job's on the line.
Yeah.
But bullshit decision.
Yeah, fuck the judges.
Piper, GM3 didn't show up, man. Yeah. It happens sometimes. He's
not a round one guy. He's a feel him out guy. He's a wait for the opportunity kind of guy.
Yeah, and he's fighting a guy that finishes all of his opponents in the first two rounds. It was always going to be a can he survive that first round and start using his experience. He did not. What was the next fight after that?
Another bad decision, to be honest. That was Lupi against Calvillo.
I thought Calvillo won.
She did.
I was really bitter about that.
So that was the pick, one of the picks I had against you, and I was like, shit, I'm going one down early, and then they gave her the split decision.
It was hard.
I'll take that.
Lupi did not fight a good fight in my opinion, but whatever. What can you do? Next after that, we're on to the early prelims.
Yeah, Bahamondes, Ogden.
Bahamondes won the fight comfortably. Wasn't overly entertaining.
No, Steve Garcia against Usyk. Nope, no Dambieke. We're not very good at some names.
Shah had him in the first round, couldn't get it done. Gets dropped with a body shot in the second round. Good win, Steve. Other hype train of the night derailed. Jacqueline Amolim. Great in the first round, burnt out. Sam Hughes puts it on her in the next two.
Sam Page.
Hey, it was a night for the experience. No doubt about it. Card, good to be back in Miami. Adesanya is the champion once again. We now have to look forward to some fights that have been announced. Start with the good news. Pantoja, Brandon Moreno 2, all but signed for UFC 290 in July.
Nice.
That fight has already got Volkanovski versus Yair Rodriguez signed and 100% confirmed.
I take it that is going to be the main.
That's the co-main event, which means that they're still looking for a third title fight for that International Fight Week card.
Oh, God.
Could be Jones Stipe. Could be Colby Leon.
They were saying July, right, Stipe and Jones?
There were rumours about it. I'm hearing July for Colby versus Leon as well, but that might be in London later on.
Well, the other one is that, we might have more than the one pay-per-view that week.
That month, you mean?
Sometimes they've even done it before, pay-per-view, fight night, pay-per-view on fight week. Sometimes you get treated. And they do love churning out events as of late.
And London was a successful card for them. Yeah, July's looking very good, which is excellent news because June's going to be a bit rough. We got a pay-per-view in June. 289's got a main event. It's Nunes versus Pena 3. I'm not excited about this, but I do understand it because there's literally nobody else for Nunes to fight because the division is shit and every single fucking bantamweight for the last 4 years has been doing everything they can to figure out how to get down to flyweight.
Yeah, pretty much.
Because even though Shevchenko is just as scary, she's not as like my life could change scary.
Yeah, like you know what, I don't need it, but it's fine. I'll watch it.
Hey, Pena deserves props being willing to get in there again after what happened the last time. But it's not like if that's the co-main event of a fight pay-per-view, okay, cool. Main event, I've seen it before. And Pena might catch her in something, which would frustrate me. Deeply frustrate me. Like if Juliana Pena wins a trilogy against Amanda Nunes, we really need to look at bantamweight and just go like, what the fuck, guys? Like, get your shit together. Look at flyweight right now. Women's flyweight wasn't a division 5 years ago, and it's so fucking good right now. There's no excuses.
Yeah,
there's never been more talent.
You also got to remember you had like stand-up battles between fucking Betcha Cahill and Ronda Rousey, or
different time in the sport. Whipping. Different time in the sport.
They got their shit together a little. All right, I feel like some steps were taken forward. Featherweight was a bit of a car crash.
We don't need to talk about featherweight. Yeah.
What other fights you got announced?
Well, those were the big three in the UFC. Obviously, we've had a boxing fight announced. Nate Diaz versus Jake Paul, 5th of August, 185 pounds, 8 rounds. Nate's getting paid. That's the good news. The bad news is I think that fight looks quite brutal.
Be interesting. I think that'll be the first time I'm actually a little bit interested. I know Nate Diaz can outbox him. Can Nate Diaz still take that kind of damage? How many rounds you say they're doing?
8 rounds.
8 rounds.
3 minutes.
No. I'm almost interested in it. Almost interested this time.
Josh might actually watch that one.
Yeah. They coax me in sometimes.
I think that is pretty much.
Usyk and Fury is just never ever happening ever.
No, there's talk about Fury fighting Andy Ruiz, which is just a nothing fight. I did see a great quote from Joe Joyce though the other day, talking about himself, and I think it's quite a funny way to promote yourself. He's just like Mike Tyson used to say, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face. Well, all my opponents have a plan against me until they punch me in the face and see that nothing happens.
Actually, Usyk's gonna fight the Bronze Bomber, right?
No, he's been ordered to fight Daniel Dubois.
Okay.
I don't understand this because Dubois got soundly beaten by Joe Joyce. So I don't get boxing, man. I don't get how the rankings work. Joe Joyce is undefeated. How is he not the guaranteed next title shot? But it is what it is. Boxing is a broken sport, and that's why we do a podcast on mixed martial arts instead.
Yep. And now, very tired and hungover, I'm going to have to blag my way through a pick show. So
well, that makes this the end of our video here. Thanks for watching, guys. Look out for the pick show dropping probably very shortly after this one. Like, subscribe, comment, all that jazz. We'll see you on the next one. Bye, Dave. Bye, Laurie. Bye, Trifa.
Yeah, look for my OnlyFans. Bye, Laurie. Bye, Dave.
It's called the Ginger Beards.